Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. We've taken a look at this game before, but that was with 16 gigabytes of RAM. This time we're taking a look at it with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now the game is currently running at the lowest in-game graphics settings with the full 1080p resolution, and we are at the stock 15 watt TDP. Now the level of performance that we're getting here is pretty brutal. Our averages are pretty much just slightly under 30 FPS, but our 1% lows being in the mid-teens pretty much means that the experience is going to be very inconsistent. And you'll see by those frame time charts, the way that they just fluctuate all over the place, that it is going to be a very, very rough experience. Overall, I did not find it very enjoyable to try to play like this at all, and it would make doing things like timing parries and things like that pretty much impossible to do. The timing would just be really, really off, and that has a lot to do with those inconsistent frame times. If you have so much inconsistent latency in between frames, all that's going to end up happening is you won't really be able to get the timing down for pretty much anything. And for a game like this, that pretty much is the most important aspect of it. Now, I'm sure there's someone out there that has played the game like this and has beaten it. I mean, there's people that have played this game in far worse conditions than this. And the fan base for this franchise really just seems to enjoy torture in general. But I think that for the vast majority of people that like to play video games, this might just be a little too rough. Of course, we can try to raise the TDP up to 25 watts and see if that levels things out a bit. If we could at least boost those 1% lows, even at 26 FPS average, would be a lot more playable. Unfortunately, even raising the TDP up to 25 watts at the full 1080p resolution is really not enough to salvage the gaming experience here. We're still getting averages that are under 30, and our 1% lows are still in the mid-teens. So we really did not get any uplift whatsoever. And in general, the game is still very difficult to try to play, with those frame times being just as inconsistent as they were at the stock TDP. Now, of course, we can try to adjust the resolution to try to improve the overall gaming experience here, but at the full 1080p resolution, you're just not really going to be able to play this comfortably. Thankfully, dropping down the resolution to 720p, and we're back down to the 15 watt TDP, you can see here that the level of performance that we're getting is significantly better. Our 1% lows being in the 30 range is a pretty major improvement, though it's not the most consistent 1% lows. You will see that it will dip down below 30 sometimes, but in general, it is an overall improvement, though the frame times still fluctuate a lot. They definitely aren't perfectly flat here, but it is a huge improvement from where we were at before. And it did become a far more enjoyable experience to try to play like this. More than likely, you could get used to playing like this and actually play through the entirety of the game. Though again, not the perfect experience here, at least it is playable. And in general, it did make doing things like the timing in parries and stuff like that a lot better. Even though I'm absolutely terrible at this game, it just became far, far more playable to actually do. Though I kept still dying in the same scenario over and over again, it was just far more doable, and I think that just came down to my lack of skill more than the system itself holding me back here. Certainly it would be better if we could get a 60 FPS average, but I think averages in the 40s with 1% lows just being slightly under 30 is more than good enough. But of course, we can try to raise the TDP and see if maybe we can boost those 1% lows to stay a little bit more consistently around 30. And really what ended up happening by raising the TDP to 25 watts is that the game became far more playable here. 1% lows being at 30 most of the time is again not perfect, but our averages are now in the high 40s, sometimes touching into the 50 range. And in general, the overall experience became so much better that I actually was able to play the game comfortably. Again, not the most ideal situation, but I think if you're someone that is used to playing the original Dark Souls, then you'll be very, very familiar with this level of performance. And of course, the resolution as well. In general, I was pretty satisfied with this, and I could say that this is a pretty overall passable experience. You'll see that the frame times are just a lot more consistent, with the fluctuations being just a few milliseconds instead of fluctuations from anywhere between 25 to 40 milliseconds. The overall consistency of the experience pretty much meant that it was going to be a really, really good time. And I was actually able to finally beat this mini boss here that kept absolutely destroying me, because doing any any kind of counters or trying to dodge just became extremely difficult with such a low FPS earlier. Now, with everything being just far more consistent, it meant that actually playing the game was far more enjoyable. Now, of course, this is one of the easiest, if not the easiest boss in the game. I don't really know what it would be like in the late game, especially because I know some of the bosses here can get absolutely crazy, especially with just how fast that they can attack. But more than likely, putting in a few hours of gaming like this will actually get you used to playing the overall game. And the frame times are consistent enough that I think that you could more than likely adjust to actually playing like this more than comfortably enough. So I would say that if you're looking to play this game on this specific chip, you're gonna have to drop things down to 720p and raise the TDP up to 25 watts. You can definitely still do it if you're stuck at 15 watts and you just cannot increase it, but boosting up to that 25 watts is going to make the overall experience just far, far better for you. So I think that that's something that you should keep in mind. But anyways, I hope you found this video useful or entertaining. If you did, be sure to subscribe. As always, channel memberships are enabled on the channel, so if you'd like to support like that, it would be greatly appreciated. I will catch you in the next one.